We'll get here, guys. Welcome. TGI Sports Talks College Football Huddle. I'm your host, Keith Engle. Good to have you with us. A couple technical glitches at the beginning, but we're back and better than ever. How's everybody doing? Enough of that. Anyway, I want to welcome everybody watching tonight on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. All the groups that allow us to share. You see some of our favorites scrolling at the bottom. You guys have been so supportive. I mean, a couple thousand views a week of this show. It's caught or catching the Sunday Stream of Consciousness as TGI Sports Talk most popular show. So great job by these groups, including John Gonzalez at the Sports Authorities. We'll skip over Greg Rawlings because he isn't college football related with the America's Pastime, but we want to give him a shout out anyway. Bottom Line Sports, Flo and Can. Flo will be back pretty soon. They'll be back broadcasting live on Let's Talk Sports, who's also a good friend of this show. And Ken Krause over at Golf Bud Sports of all sorts, and so many more college and podcast related groups. Guys, reach out to me. I'll be happy to give you a shout out. Well, we thank you. I can't mention all of you every week, obviously, but I'd like to keep everybody happy if we can. Catch Monday's Jack and Keith's weekend playbook. Mac McGrath's in my head tonight. But check that out from last Monday, and also we'll be back on Friday at 8 a.m. Live with a look at the upcoming weekend in sports, and also I'll have the MLB update Wednesday at 3. We got a lot to talk about today. James Franklin out. A couple other coaches out. Trent Dilfer at UAB, the Oregon State coach, out. Luke Fickell probably behind him this week. Last week was a crazy week again. Guys, this is the nuttiest college football season I can remember in a while. 8 top 25 teams lost again. Indiana, a great story again, goes to Oregon. Hadn't won against a top 5 opponent on the road ever. Hadn't won against a top 5 opponent at all since 1967. They go out and win. Bama wins a tough game in Missouri. Oklahoma gets beat by Texas. Arch Manning plays really well. The running game comes back. The Texas defense is okay, guys. Oklahoma gets knocked out of the playoff for now. John Mateer takes himself out of the Heisman race. What else happened? A&M rolls. Texas Tech continues to win. Auburn gets absolutely screwed by the referees to kill the momentum. Again, I don't believe referees cost teams games, but they do referee badly sometimes. USC plays great defense and beating Michigan. And this is a great weekend coming up. This might be the best slate of games I think we might have had all season. South Florida wins big last week, so Memphis and South Florida both in the poll. I think at where are they? 19. We'll go through the whole poll here in a second. 19 and 22. They're the front runners for that group of 5, but Navy's still alive, UNLV's still alive, Tulane's still alive. Mostly the American Conference. Lots to talk about tonight, guys, and you bring it. Dave Guyette, Syracuse, not so good. They'll be good, though. Coach Brown will get this back together. Good evening, Michael. Good to have you with us. You're welcome always for the shows. We do these shows for you guys. Have some fun. There's Brian. Brian's watching and sharing. Thank you so much, Brian. Good to have you with us. Brian does a great job hosting the unprofessional professional sports show that airs just before this. We simulcast it on our shows, obviously, or our platforms. At least, where do I do it? Just Facebook, I guess. I can only do 2. Maybe I should try you. I don't get a lot of views on YouTube, though. I got a guy who was trying to negotiate with me to help me boost my YouTube. And, the guy was just so pushy, and I don't trust him. So, I'm not going to do it. Michael Gott from the UK. How are you, my friend? What college football games are going to send you this weekend? We got a lot of games coming up to talk about. The big news, though, is James Franklin. Loses to Oregon, we know 3 weeks ago now at home in the whiteout. And, a spirited comeback by Penn State to force Oregon overtime in that game, 14 down in the fourth quarter. But then they go out to UCLA, who hadn't won a game all year and had not looked good doing it. Now they've won a couple since. But they get beat as a 20-plus point favorite. If that's not bad enough, they come back home as a 20-point favorite against Northwestern. And Pat Fitzgerald, I'm not Pat Fitzgerald, but he got fired, didn't he? God, I can't think of the coach's name. It's off the top of my head. But they go into Happy Valley and beat them. And they have a major panic attack. And listen, I am not a James Franklin fan, as we know, as far as being able to get over the top. But I'll tell you what, there's very few consistent coaches who can win 10 games like James Franklin. You might as well have let him finish the season. You did not improve your chances. This team's out of the playoff. You didn't improve your chances, and I don't know, maybe he lost the locker room. This seems like a major panic attack by Penn State. You could have made this move after the season. And what this is going to do is set up a whole domino effect of, when a coach gets chosen, and they're going after Matt Rule, they're going after Kirk Cignetti. I don't know if they get either one of those guys. Kirk Cignetti, I think, likes what he's building in Indiana, and they've got the resources to keep him and keep this program on top. Surprisingly, they just haven't had people committed to do that in decades. This team has got the second worst winning percentage in the history of college football. This program, historically. Matt Rule's a different story. He's got ties to Happy Valley. He's got ties to the AD who hired him at Temple, where he did a great job. He won back-to-back double-digit win seasons at Temple. Nobody does that. He met his wife there. But as much as I like Matt Rule, and I like what he's doing with Nebraska, they snuck into the top 25 this week. And as you know, I have them playing in the Big Ten championship game. That is not out of the realm of possibility just yet. It's looking like Indiana and Ohio State are going to come to loggerheads there. But Matt Rule, as much as I like Matt Rule, as much as I like what he did at Temple, like what he did at Baylor, what he's doing at Nebraska, is Matt Rule better than James Franklin? He's only got three. He's only like 3-20 something against top 20 teams, top 10 teams. Don't know what's going to happen there. Oregon State, as I said, fired their head coach as well after an 0-7 start. UAB, which has a big game this week against Memphis. Not big for UAB, big for Memphis. This will be a blowout. They fire Trent Dilfer. So we've had about 7 in-season firings here now. And Luke Fickell, I'd be shocked because Ohio State's going to Camp Randall and going to blow Wisconsin off the field. This is not a good football team. And I like Luke Fickell. He's one guy who's not going to be considered for the Penn State job. He probably would have been 3 years ago, but he's done a horrible job in Wisconsin. I think it was a bad fit. Luke Fickell will be back and probably have to work his way back to maybe a Power 4 conference job at all. He may have to go down, to the American somewhere. Maybe goes to UAB. I don't know. He's not going back to Cincinnati because they're playing really good football. Michigan, extremely disappointing. Chance to get back on track against tough. Listen, Washington is very quietly 5-1. Jed Finch, one of the really good underrated coaches. I know Bo took some exception with some play calling late in the Washington and some of the games, late in drives and whatnot. I think Jed Finch is a really good program builder. He went to Arizona, who was flat on their back. I think they'd won one game maybe the year before he got there. Former quarterback coach at New England, I would add. Turned that Arizona program around. Went to Washington, where they lost 22 out of 24 starters from that runner-up for the national championship team. And in 2 years has rebuilt them into maybe a contender in a few years. Maybe not right now, but it's going to be interesting. They're going to Michigan. Washington's got a fighter's chance here. They got some votes in the poll. They'd be number 28 if we count down. Michigan's offense is going to, you got to look at, again, Arch has been around a little bit longer, obviously, than Bryce Underwood. But, young quarterbacks are going to make mistakes. They're not all going to come in here and light it up. There's going to be growing pains, and they had them. And give some, again, don't just blame the Michigan offense. USC's defense is much, much better. Lincoln Riley's done a good job with some good hires finally. Who've done some really good job of some transfers and some recruiting on that defensive side of the football. And they actually have a representative defense on the field. That's a tough place to go play. And Michigan, inadvertently, kind of helps Notre Dame's chances. Notre Dame playing USC this week in one of those really cool matchups that I pointed out. I got a lot of TVs going this week, I'm telling you. That helps you. Notre Dame. If Notre Dame wins out, they're in. They've moved up to 6th. Where'd they move up to? 13? 13. They'd probably be in the tournament. They'd probably be in the playoff field right now if it started today. Because it'd be tough. Yeah, I could see them in over LSU in the SEC. Well, they got one loss. It's going to be interesting when I start matching up 2-loss SEC teams and 2-loss Notre Dame teams. Notre Dame, remember, lost close games to the team that's ranked 2 and the team that's ranked 4th. That's all they've lost, their first 2 games. It shows a cat's ass. I love it. If you missed the professional show, I'm kind of making up my own metaphors now. And maybe I said it because I got a cat's ass staring me right in the face over on the floor. AC, how are you, my friend? Good to have you with us today, as always. Any truth in Joe Brady, Bills? That'd be interesting. His name has come up. Joe Brady, and so's Matt Campbell's, by the way, at Iowa State. Matt Campbell comes up for every job that opens up. Maybe this is the job he takes if he's offered it. Joe Brady's done a great job in Buffalo, did a great job at LSU with Joe Burrow before that. I just don't know that you give this job to a coordinator. This isn't there's going to be very little leash given whoever gets this job. You're going to get 1 year grace, and then you better start contending for national championships. This isn't go build it slowly. So I'm not really sure if Joe Brady's a serious contender or not. Joe Brady's a great coach. I personally think Joe Brady might get his shot and wait for his shot on the NFL level. Done a great job in Buffalo. Good point there, Michael. And Michael Dyton Edwards, make sure you check out breaking news. Billy Napier also with Luke Fickell, the most likely next coach to get fired. These two are probably neck and neck. He did withdraw his name for consideration for the Penn State job. So East Potomac State has Billy Napier wrapped up for next year, it looks like. Good call, Michael. Make sure you check out Michael's writings, by the way. I'm sure we're due one here the next few days, which we always post TGI Sports Talk into a few of the other groups that let me share some stuff. Finch is definitely better than Moore. I'm not gonna, I wouldn't get too down on Sean Moore. I like him. I think this team needs at least another year. I think it's obvious they're not going to contend for a championship now. I don't think they're going to contend for a Big Ten championship, can they? What are they? Did they have one loss in conference or two? I think maybe they haven't even lost in conference, have they? No, they're 2-1. I bet. So again, they're not out of the Big Ten race, but I mean, it's going to be tough for these one-loss teams because where's the losses coming for Indiana and Ohio State? They both got Penn State. That doesn't look that tough now. Oregon, I don't know how good Oregon is. I really don't now after that Indiana game last week at home and Penn State's debacles since they lost Oregon at home. How good is Oregon? Moore looked really bad against that Indiana defense. I like Finch a lot. And the other thing, Brian, too, and USC now has beefed up the defense, beefed up those offensive and defensive lines. And I said last year, and I think it's improving, that Washington and Oregon were much more prepared for Big Ten play than, let's say, USC and Oregon. I'm sorry, UCLA and UCLA. UCLA and USC. Jesus. USC and UCLA. That's a lot of letters similar, right? Because they were more physical. They played more physical football. Oregon's been a physical football team really since Marco Cristobal was there. And I think they still play with some of that physicality under Dan Lanning. USC, it took a year to realize that we are not going to compete in the Big Ten like this. And they fixed it, at least partially. UCLA's on their way, but, Washington was better. They didn't play great last year, but they got better as the year went on, and they played really good and only beaten by Ohio State. College football should do a red zone channel like the NFL. I agree, Michael. ESPN fooled around with one for a while. I can't remember what they called it. But it was very similar to the red zone channel. I mean, they wouldn't go to every single game and every single touchdown. There's just too many games going on, right? But they had a channel where they would have 4 games going and they would kind of move the games in and out. I don't know if I just don't get that channel anymore or it's not there. I can't remember what they called it. It could be tough because, again, when a game came back into the 4 boxes, it may not be where it was before. Made for a hard watch, but I do think they need something like that. Somebody should be jumping on that. And ESPN is a natural person to do that. That's an idea, Mr. Guy. Right? I think it's a brilliant idea. And I know that ESPN did something similar to that a few years back, and I don't know what happened to it. I don't know what they called it. I wish I could remember. I kind of like Sherrod Moore too, but he is a bit conservative. But I think it's partly because, again, they're trying to keep Underwood from making mistakes, and they probably should just let him go out and play, right? I mean, I really think in similar situation, Slayan, right? From Ohio State, they've taken the reins off him a little bit. He's played really well. And Texas and Arch Moore, I think they did a disservice to him early in the year by trying to rein him in instead of just playing his game, freelancing a little bit. I think they ought to take the reins off of Underwood. He's going to make mistakes anyway. But let him add some excitement and some energy to that offense. Take the reins off them. I mean, if you're going to lose, you might as well do it in exciting. Oh, geez, AC, no. For two reasons. Penn State is not hiring Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels flamed out horribly twice in the NFL. I can't. I mean, I guess there's a little bit of a precedent, one that I can think of a guy who was a multi-time failed head coach in the NFL that went to college and rebuilt his entire reputation, and that'd be Pete Carroll. I don't think Josh McDaniel is Pete Carroll. I think Josh McDaniel is a great offensive coordinator, and besides that, we need him where he is because we got a quarterback who's developing similar to what we did 3-4 years ago. And when Josh McDaniel left, that quarterback went into the trash heap thanks to his head coach. Yeah, I don't see that happening, AC. I think Josh McDaniel's head coaching days are behind him. It's interesting. As you said that, I immediately was like, no. I can't. I thought there would be no precedent for a guy who failed twice and then went to college and turned things around. And there's a perfect example in Pete Carroll. I just don't think McDaniel's Pete Carroll. Trump is going to be the I'm not sure what Jason's doing here, but I'm not going to do this. Jason, you got to stop right now. We're not going to do this. I'm going to have to remove you from the room, buddy. All right? I'm going to give you one more chance to stop. And I'm going to remove you from the room. All right. See you later, bud. Good having you here, but I got to block you. That's not the type of show we do here where we just, overwhelm. We're just going to overwhelm the comments with one stupid, look at people who watch my shows know where I stand politically. I'm not a Trumpster. I am a conservative Republican, but this isn't a show where you just go and put Trump, Trump, Trump over and over again and think you're going to get away with it. We don't play those games here. So sorry, Jason, if you're a follower and you want to complain to Facebook that I banned you and get my show taken down like maybe you did 4 years ago. I don't know who did it then. But you can do what you want to do. But I gave you a chance to stop, right? But you didn't do it. Where are we here? I just have a feeling that if Drake keeps up, some colleges might throw some money at him. To me, they'd have to be desperate, AC. Again, I love Josh McDaniel. I love Josh McDaniel in one place. That's offensive coordinator of the New England Patriots. He's done a great job with Drake May. He did a great job with Mac Jones. He did a great job with Matt Castle when Tom Brady was out for an entire season. He's a great offensive coordinator, and some people are just that. Now, if somebody throws a bunch of money at him, but who's going to throw? He's a failed guy. Pete Carroll got the job at USC. He was about the sixth choice. So I don't know. I don't know that he wants to go do that. I think if he wanted to go do that, he might have gone and been on Bill Belichick's staff and maybe knew how bad it was going to be there. I don't know. And look to get a job that way, which would be more conventional. Although Jed Finch, coming from the New England Patriots, has done a great job in Arizona, but not a failed head coach. Maybe I'm wrong. I think Pete Carroll's the only guy I can think of. Saban failed in the pros. Yeah, but he was already he'd already won a national championship in college, Michael. That's not even a close comparison to Carroll or Josh McDaniel. He'd won at Michigan State. He'd won a national championship at LSU. He went and took a bad fit at Miami. Although if Miami doctors don't fail Drew Brees is physical when he's a free agent, he signed with the Dolphins instead of the Saints, you wonder how history might have been different. There's Mr. Gott. Sorry, Jason. Thank you for keeping the show where it is. That's why we, for keeping the show where it is. Thank you. That's why we love and support you. Respect to views and consider platform first. Yeah, listen, I dive into these topics a little bit on my shows. I dive into them a lot with my own friends. But we don't, that's not going to be the overbearing thing on our shows. I'm not sure where Jason's coming from or who he is, but it is what it is. Good point, Resaban. Thank you. I mean, it's not a bad example. He did go to the pros and go back, and it's an interesting thing to revisit with Saban for sure. How different would history have been if the Dolphins had signed Brees instead of Dante Culpepper? Maybe the Dolphins start winning and Saban never leaves, and where's that leave Alabama the last 2 decades? Always interesting points to ponder. Might be something Jack and I talk about. We got to, and maybe we'll ask for some ideas from you guys. Jack is looking for some ideas, as am I. That we've got 4, maybe 5 shows that we've got to kind of put in the can for the Jack and Keith weekend playbook, because I'll be away on vacation and unable to do live shows at 8 o'clock in the morning. I just can't. My wife will allow me to do a little bit, and we'll fit a college football huddle in somewhere. It won't be at this time, maybe. We'll do the Sunday stream of consciousness, but I can't do all the shows, or I'll come home without a wife or get left somewhere in some port. What do you got here, Michael? What do I think of the early exit rumors of Belichick leaving UNC? I don't think it's just clickbait. I think there's something to it. If there wasn't something to it, both sides would not have had to come out with a statement last week. If there wasn't something to it, I think they would have just shut up and not said anything. But the fact is that he negotiated himself a $1 million buyout for himself to leave, and he did that in order to have a way out if an NFL job opened up, in my mind. This is just me. And I got to believe that, UNC doesn't think they got what they paid for. I think it would cost them $25 million to buy him out right now. The first 3 years of his contract, and that's as we speak today, and I think after the season it's $20 million. I believe only the first 3 years of his contract were guaranteed at $10 million per. I think there's something to it. Whether it happens is a different story. He's now made another comment now that he is really committed. He didn't think. What did he say? Do I have it here or not? Let me see if I have it here. I don't remember if I saved this particular. He calls again. So he's spoken out several times, and the fact that they're talking about it all when he would normally not even refer to this. He doubled down on his belief that his process will eventually lead to a winning team. Look at this team's going to play going to Cal this week, traveling all the way across the country. I think they get beat again, maybe handily. I think there's something to it. I'm not sure that it'll happen, but I don't think it's just clickbait either. Pretty huge difference. Also, when Detroit refused to trade Barry Sanders to the Dolphins for Marino. I don't remember that. It's interesting. Well, again, we're not gonna dive too deep into the NFL, but I don't believe that Lion team was going to be any better with Marino minus Sanders than they were with Barry Sanders, quite frankly. I think Wayne Fonts did a good job there for those times. And again, I don't want to dive down that road too deep, but that's a great question. And, these are things, and getting back to what I was talking about with the shows Jack and I need to put in the can, I think maybe some of these what-if scenarios would be pretty good. But maybe we'll do one show about what if. What if Saban stayed at Miami? What if Marino got traded for Barry Sanders? Maybe we'll talk about some of those. Interesting stuff. Let's take a quick look. So again, last week, the games that were of interest, Ohio State easily over Illinois. They haven't really had a close game. Texas was close, but week one, Bama. I feel like that game was closer than what the score was. I mean, it was a one-score game in the fourth quarter. Missouri handled themselves well. Indiana, I think, beat up on Oregon a little bit more than the scoreboard indicated. Texas handled Oklahoma very well. Notre Dame beats up on NC State. They need some style points, and they need a win at USC. I think they run the table as long as they beat USC this week. Tennessee handles Arkansas and their new interim coach, anyway, who might be the permanent coach, Bobby Petrino. A&M beats Florida. Florida, this could be the this could be the Billy Napier swan song tonight. Texas Tech beats fairly handily, I think, a decent Kansas team. Auburn and Georgia. Georgia finds a way to win again. They should have been down 17-0 in this game at halftime. It was a big swing, 10-point swing in this game. They ended up 10-3 down instead of 17-0 maybe, with a bad call at halftime. Again, I'm not saying that's why they lost the game. I am saying the referees totally changed momentum, and I take it. And Hugh Freeze's another guy who's probably on the hot seat. I don't like the way he handled the halftime. His own remarks at halftime to the sideline reporter, way too emotional. I think his team fed off that at halftime, and they didn't score in the second half. What else happened last week? Michigan, USC, we talked about. LSU handled South Carolina. This week, they're got a big game at Vanderbilt, and they're underdogs, maybe for the first time in their history, going into Vanderbilt. Colorado, BYU, Utah, all with big Big 12 wins. That league is wide open. In the group of five, we had South Florida just manhandle North Texas to eliminate North Texas from consideration. Memphis had a bye. Tulane beat East Carolina. Nevada, Las Vegas with a tight win, which they seem to have all the time against Air Force. And Navy beats Temple on a long touchdown pass late in the fourth quarter, and then they go for two to win the game. Onions, right, as Bill Raftery would say. So some fun games there, and Wisconsin and Fickle get hammered, and they're going to get hammered again this week. Let's take a quick look. What do you got here? Let's take a quick look at the top 25, and we'll take a quick look around the standings. And any other stories you guys want to talk about. We can talk about any of the coaches fired. We can talk about Franklin, who you think some of the people are going to be. I've got a sense, it's on my own gut feeling, that if Matt Campbell's going to leave, this might be his opportunity, because I think Matt Rule's going to say no. I think. And I'm positive Kirk Cignetti's going to say no. Anyway, in the top football rankings, 1 and 2 stays Miami and Ohio State. Miami's playing great. Miami's going undefeated. They're going to be favored every single game the rest of the way out. They got Louisville at home this week. They just got to avoid the pitfalls that they seem to run into yearly. But right now they're second. They lost a few first-place votes. Not a big deal. 50 for Ohio State, 13 for Miami, 3 for Indiana, who moves up 4 spots to number 3. Both A&M, who's number 4, and Indiana jumped over number 5, Ole Miss. which I understand. They're probably the weakest link in this top 10, I would say. They got a big game against Georgia this week. Bama comes in at 6, Texas Tech at 7, Oregon at 8, dropping 5. That feels about right. Georgia moves up 1 to 9, LSU up 1 to 10. Tennessee 11, Georgia Tech is 12. Tennessee's got a big game at Alabama this week, by the way. And Georgia Tech with a pretty big game themselves. Where did I write them down? Against Duke, I believe, if I can read my writing. We'll check all that for veracity later. Notre Dame, as I said, up 3 to 13. That slow climb continues. All they have to do is keep winning and watch the teams above them lose. Oklahoma drops 8 spots to 14. It feels right. I'm sorry. Untested. Who's untested so far? The teams that we talked about. Ole Miss feels, well, they did beat LSU. They got to be tested. Texas Tech feels untested. Went to Utah. Usually I would say that's a really good test. This isn't a classic Kyle Whittingham team at Utah, but playing better basketball, playing better football now as they're at number 23. Oregon's tested. Georgia has tried to lose games and found ways to win. LSU, I'm not sure they got enough offense. So Georgia Tech, maybe Georgia Tech and Texas Tech might be the most untested of this top 15. BYU will get tested this week as they go to Utah. They're at 15 right now. They're up 3 spots. Missouri drops a couple to 2 after a close loss to Bama. Vanderbilt moves up 3 to number 17. Virginia continues to move up, number 18. South Florida with a big jump with that blowout last week, up 5. Highest ranked group of 5. Very important to keep an eye on, especially once we get this first college football poll, which will be on the 4th of November. That's probably not right, because, I think that's the 4th of November. USC wasn't ranked. They move up to 20. Big jump. Texas unranked, 21. Memphis up 1 to 22. Utah, Cincinnati, Nebraska finish out the top 25. All were unranked. You had a plethora of teams drop out of the top 25. Michigan falls from 15 to out. Illinois, 17 to out. Arizona State, 21 to out. Iowa State, Florida State. Florida State with 3 losses in a row now, following a couple of wins after that big win against Alabama. Illinois, the closest to cracking or getting back in, I guess I should say, this top 25. They're at 113, which leaves them at 26. Michigan close. Washington, UNLV, Navy. UNLV and Navy, very important that they continue to move up these rankings. There's a lot of points for Navy to make up in UNLV if they want to chase down Memphis, and Tulane has no points in here. Did they lose a game that I'm not aware of here? Where's the American Conference? Bear with me. You can talk amongst yourselves if you'd like. Just kidding. Now they're 2-0 in conference, 5-1 overall, but they didn't get 1 vote for the top 25. Still alive. The winner of that American Conference is going to be the highest ranked team in that conference, obviously, and it's the highest ranked conference winner. So Vegas has got some work to do in the Mountain West. Probably the only team with a chance out there to overcome whoever wins this American Conference. USC can beat Notre Dame Saturday. I don't disagree. I'd like them a lot better if they were at home. The D looked great in the pass rush. We'll give Carr fits. Carr's handled a pretty good pass rush. Don't forget, Miami's got one of the best pass rushes in the country. And Carr handled it pretty well, especially in the second half as Notre Dame came back to try to pull that game out and could not. I think C.J. Carr's played pretty well for a guy that we had our doubts about. But with that said, USC's defense is much, much improved. Their quarterback has played very good, which is to be expected for a USC quarterback under Lincoln Riley. The defense, though, is a surprise. And if they do rush the passer, if they get Carr to turn the ball over, they will be in this game. This is a game where Notre Dame probably doesn't need style points. They probably just need to get a win at home. I do like Notre Dame to win this game. But I am a fan of this USC team. A fan, not a fan. I like them. Anybody knows that crazy Notre Dame game last week? I know Brian did. Yes. Again, as I said, this game was pretty much gone. They get a long pass to put themselves down 1 at the end of the game, and a very ballsy call to go for 2. I like it. You got a team back on its heels. They just gave up a big play after they think they've got a game won. Now, with that said, by the way, Navy shouldn't be keeping Temple in this game. Temple's not very good. Navy, I think, has a bye this week. Do they not? I think I pulled this up a minute ago. Just to give our military teams a shout out, and we will get into our ESPN poll, our college pool in a second. I'll give you my picks from the random. I mean, can ESPN be any more random in the games they give you in this pool? Jesus. Anyway, just a shout out to the military academies. Army will play Tulane, big game. Where's Army stand there? I mean, Army's 2-2 in conference already, so they're pretty much playing a role of spoiler here. Air Force, I believe, has Wyoming, and Navy has a bye. Oh, the other group of 5 teams, South Florida gets Florida Atlantic. Memphis, I think, as I already said, will get UAB, who just fired Trent Dilfer. And Vegas will play a tough Boise State on the blue field in Boise, Idaho. But that was a crazy game. Very crazy game. Since we're on it, let's take a quick look at the pool. And we'll recap what happened last week quickly, and then I'll give you my picks for this week. Nobody's setting the world on fire here, by the way, as 6 games over 500 is leading this pool. The top scores in week 7 were Beamer Ball, Neil Bush. Neil. Brian had, that's you, if you ain't cheating, I believe, right? Brian had 6, and J-Train had 6 as well. And in the season-long standings, Neil Bush and Beamer Ball leads with 38, only 38 and 32. Really, nobody's setting the world on fire here. J-Train has moved up to 2nd, 37, 1 behind. Rick Sherlock, 35, just a couple, 3 behind. Allen and his beloved Sooners probably let him down. He's at 500, sitting in 4th place, or tied for 3rd, I should say, with 35 points. The rest of us are at 34, 320. Nobody's out of this. I mean, I'm sitting down here at 320, tied with Danny Fuller, and we are only 6 behind. But it's very hard to catch up. It's been a rough, man. The games they give us, and let me give you my picks in this pool. LSU is going to a very tough Vanderbilt team. I'm certain that Diego Pavia is not going to put up any bulletin board material this week, but Vanderbilt is favored to win this game. I'm going to take Vanderbilt at home over the offensively challenged LSU Tigers. Guys, if you got some comments about these games or any other games, put them up. I'm going to look at the conferences real quick, and then we'll look at this week's games in a little bit more detail, some of the games to keep an eye on. Georgia Tech will go to Duke. Manny Diaz has done a really good job. Not quite as good as the Yellow Jackets. 6-0, number 12 in the ESPN poll. 13, I think, in the AP poll. I'm going to take the Yellow Jackets on the road here. Arizona going to Houston. I'm going to take Houston to beat the Wildcats, who are playing pretty good football. I think Houston's just a tad better in that Big 12. Baylor, also in the Big 12, goes to TCU. I just like the athleticism of this TCU team. Tough loss last week. Oklahoma trying to bounce back off of their worst game of the year, John Mateer's worst game of the year. I got to tell you, I like an upset here. South Carolina, if it's on the card for me to bet in the cigar box, I could be betting an underdog South Carolina team at home against the Oklahoma Sooners. A bit banged up and smacking their wounds after this trip to the Red River rivalry last week. Ole Miss will go to Georgia. Ole Miss did beat Georgia last year, but they've had their trouble with the Bulldogs, had their trouble with Alabama, had their trouble with LSU. They beat LSU this year. They feel like the weakest part of the top 10 so far, Ole Miss does. Their quarterback is playing well. After coming in due to injury a few weeks, probably a month ago now. Georgia doesn't feel like your classic Georgia team, but I'm going to take Georgia at home. Old Dominion against James Madison. James Madison, a team that had some aspirations for this Group of 5 playoff pick. Probably not going to happen with as well as South Florida and Memphis have played. But I will take the Dukes to beat Old Dominion at home. Penn State reeling will go into Iowa. Ames, Iowa. Not Ames. They play in Iowa City, don't they? We'll take the Hawkeyes. Kurt Ferentz's horrendous offense, but really good defense, really good special teams. We'll take the Hawkeyes to keep Penn State reeling. Auburn gets Missouri at home. I'm going to take Auburn. I got to believe they're angry about last week. They have really themselves to blame, not the referees, although the referees did steal momentum from them at halftime, big time. You've got to rebound from that adversity, though. I think they do it this week. I think Missouri might be, again, licking some wounds from having a chance in that Alabama game and not being able to capitalize a few times. I think they have a tough time rebounding in a tough road environment. I'll take Auburn. BYU in the Holy War. I'm going to take the Cougars. Well coached. Kyle Whittingham, as everybody knows, watches my shows, is one of my favorite college coaches. Might be nearing the end. This is not your classic Utah team, although they have moved into the top 25. I'll take BYU to win this game, and that's the end of my picks in the pool. I like the NFL pool better too, Danny. Hold on a second. We'll get there. We'll get to you. We still got a few comments. Let me get I probably haven't missed as many as I thought. I did say that. No way, Josh McDaniel, no way. No, I agree 100%, Danny. And welcome to the show, Danny Fuller. Good to have you with us. Although I think James Franklin doesn't coach next year, by the way, because, again, if he takes a coaching job, he'll lose part of his money. You might as well just take his $48 million and sit. I think you'll see him in a TV studio for at least a year. But the two teams that have come up a lot in conversation that I've heard are UCLA, sorry, Danny, and Stanford. I think Stanford would be a good fit for James Franklin. Right? He did really well at a very, very, very upscale academic school at Vanderbilt. Stanford has a similar feel on the West Coast academically, and the type of player you can recruit there. I think if he coaches next year, it will be at Stanford. Danny likes the NFL pool better, so do I. But the NFL, the college one's fun to just mess around with. Coaches change at Penn State. They bounced back big this weekend. I don't think they do. Drew Lar out for the year. I know Danny and we have a difference of opinion. This is one case I don't think I would have fired James Franklin here in the middle of the season. I don't see any benefit to it. It does feel like a major panic attack by the university. And here's the thing. As much as I badmouth James Franklin, and I'm not changing my tune, he can't win big games. He is a consistent winner, wins games he should win until the last 2 weeks, of course. I don't know who you're bringing in here that's better. Kirk Cignetti's not coming to Penn State. Matt Rule might come to Penn State because of his ties and certainly his relationship to the athletic director. But as much as I like Matt Rule, he's James Franklin 2.0. He doesn't beat good teams either. Now, he hasn't coached Penn State players against good teams. He's coached Temple, Baylor, and a down on their luck when he got their Nebraska team. If you look at his record, it's like 3-25 against top teams. Michael Gott, rookie question. Don't worry about that. Always wonder why college teams change their schedule of games. Should games be computer generated and set just like the NFL, or it's not that feasible? Not with the bigger conferences now. They're going to have games that within each conference you have like a historic rival you will keep. I don't know if it's 3 or 4. Let's say the SEC and Big Ten is going to be the same way. But they've been left to schedule their non-conference games themselves forever. The schools schedule their own games, and now you're starting to see some of those get canceled. Miami just canceled a home and home with South Carolina, for instance. I don't think you can really do it computer generated because of logistics and whatnot. Teams aren't going to want to play 12 Power 4 teams, by the way. Most of them most of the conferences are playing 9 league games. The Power 4, they're all going to be playing 9 league games now. Most of them, if not all of them, have a mandate to play one other Power 4 conference team in a non-conference game, and that gives them 2 games to play. They can play another good team if they want, or they can play 2 little sisters of the poor colleges, to boost their record up a little bit. But I don't think it would be feasible in college because, again, the great number of teams and some of these schedules are done decades out. And we're on the verge of losing some of these traditional rivalries, more of these traditional rivalries. USC and Notre Dame, they don't have a game scheduled past this year, and I think it would be a total shame if that one game went away. I know. There's talk, though, Danny. That's all I can tell you. I think he's a better fit at Stanford. First, again, number one, I don't think he coaches next year. If he does coach, I'm telling you, I think it'll be Stanford. Agree with me on Penn State. I think they shot themselves in the foot. Listen, again, I'm not a James Franklin fan. I'm not saying he shouldn't get fired. But here's the problem. You don't have a slam dunk replacement that can do any better than what he's done. I never said James Franklin wasn't a good football coach. I said James Franklin can't win big games. There's a lot of college football coaches out there like that. I mean, who's the big name that's coming in here to replace him? I like Matt Rule, but he's the same coach as James Franklin up till now. Again, he didn't have Penn State talent and facilities and whatnot behind him at Temple, where he did very well. So he's overachieved everywhere he's been until now. And even now, I guess you could say, considering Nebraska's history the last 15 years, or maybe more, he's probably overachieved now. Although much was expected. And Kirk Cignetti, I don't think is leaving. But who other than Cignetti? In my mind, that's the slam dunk. And now, with the 12-team playoff, are they going to wait around? If there's a coach like Cignetti or Matt Rule, got to assume that's a big assumption, by the way, saying Nebraska will be in the playoff. But Cignetti might be tied up till early January. Now, coaches and schools can wait a little bit longer now that the transfer portal itself has been pushed back to January 3rd or 6th or whatever it is. There'll only be 4 teams less playing, but I mean, do you really think a college coach is going to take a job? First of all, do you think they're going to wait with really no permanent head coach for 3 months at Penn State? I don't know. A Kirk Cignetti is not going to take the job. It's going to be in a playoff. I think Indiana ponies up, gives him an extension, and he stays in Indiana for the rest of his career. That's what I think about Kirk Cignetti. So true about Rule 2.0. He's blue-collar. Penn State needs a blue-blood coach. But who is it, Michael? That's the thing. I'm not necessarily, against James Franklin getting fired. I think Penn State, they've reached the ceiling had quite a while ago with James Franklin. That was my point. Not that James Franklin was a bad football coach, but they maxed out. I don't see anybody who's not a 2.0 that they're going to bring in there. Nick Saban's not coming out of retirement to go to Penn State. That's the only guy available that I can see would be an improvement over James Franklin. That's the rub. And this coach is only going to have a 1-year grace period. That's it. If that. Maybe they bring Bill O'Brien back. Kidding. It's not 30 teams. It's 134. This computer generated would be a disaster. Agreed. Yeah, it would be very hard, Michael. Danny's absolutely right. It'd be very, very hard to do it that way. And historically, again, these programs have scheduled their own non-conference games. I'm sure the computers are involved with the league games outside of the yearly rivalry games, right? And again, maybe it depends on the league. There's 3 or 4, I believe, teams that are designated as yearly rivals, right? Alabama will play Georgia. I think they'll play Georgia every year. Alabama plays Auburn every year. We know that. Certain games like that. I think he'll be pushed hard too, Danny. I'm certainly not poo-pooing that. Again, he has all the earmarks, and I'm not saying he'd do a bad job there. I think he's going to have a very short leash, man, and he's not going to have 4 years to get this thing turned around. He's going to have 1 and turned around. Again, the team wins 10 games a year. This team was just in the college football semifinals last year. But, coach leaves, you're going to have a mass exodus through the portal. Make sure we call those guys quitters. Rick, I see you there, by the way. Good evening. When those kids leave before Penn State's bowl game, when they're playing in the Bahama Bowl, make sure we call those guys quitters. Because there will be a mass exodus from this team. Well, the portal's a little later now, so maybe there won't be before the bowl game. But that doesn't mean guys won't opt out. It's ridiculous. But Rule will have a tough job because his job isn't to win 10 games. They're already doing that. I mean, he goes to Nebraska, and after what they've done for the last 2 decades almost, win 10 games a year and you're golden for a while. But Penn State's already been there for the last 10 plus years of Franklin's 12. I don't see Matt Rule giving them over the top. He's a good program builder. He's yet to get him over the top. And I like Matt Rule. I just don't know that this is a great fit, even though he would seem to fit everything. He's an alumni. He's been here. He's able to recruit guys at Temple. He's probably number one on their list. So I think you're right. I like the smoke surrounding Brady going, but I'm guessing Urban Meyer. You know what? Actually, I didn't even consider him a guy available, quite frankly. Does Urban? I don't know. I guess we had this conversation too a week or so ago about Urban Meyer. Does Urban Meyer feel like a guy that's ready to jump back in, or a team's ready to take him? Let's not forget what happened in his last two coaching stops. I mean, he had to leave Oregon State or Ohio State because of things that he let slide on his coaching staff, and he covered up. Jacksonville in the NFL was a total disaster. With that said, the man wins national championships like almost everywhere he goes. He's the one guy that could coach. Nick Saban's not doing it. I'm not sure that Urban Meyer is that much more likely than Saban, but I will say he's more likely. He might want to rebuild his reputation. This would be a great place for him to go. You know, it's funny. I hadn't even thought about Urban Meyer hardly at all today or this week. Something to keep an eye on. I don't know why I put your guys hello to each other up here, but I do. Michigan blamed a Radio Shack plug-in computer for scheduling Appalachian State one year. Oh, God. How'd that Rich Rodriguez era work out for Michigan? Norvell pushed out of FFC. Dabo, I don't see going to. You got to remember something. Dabo's going to have the anchor of his whole approach to carry around with him. Now, I don't think Penn State's going to buy into Dabo's approach. And also, he's a different kind of coach, man. He needs to be at the right place. And the South feels right for Dabo somewhere. You got to remember, he carries a Bible around on his, he likes to, and again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but there's a lot of schools, especially up north and out west, that aren't going to buy into his Bible Belt mentality. Just my opinion. I don't know that for a fact. That's the way it feels. And Mike Norvell, maybe. Again, not the slam dunk. The problem with firing a James Franklin, again, as much as I feel they've reached their ceiling, you can't just hire another guy who's only going to get you to 10 wins and get you in a playoff every 3 years, right? Tough. They're in a tough spot. There's not a guy. There's Urban Meyer and Nick Saban. Who else you going to bring in there? Of the guys that, and again, they're not available necessarily without buyouts. Cignetti and Rule. I would want Cignetti. He wins everywhere he goes. Just Google him. But I don't think he's leaving Indiana. So the only guys that I would say really give you a chance to get over the top of anybody that's available, including Kurt Cignetti, are two guys that are retired and don't feel like they're coming back. Nick Saban, 100% not coming back in my mind. Urban Meyer, Michael. I think Michael brought that up. That's an interesting thought. Let's take a quick look at some of the conference races. We talked about the American, very close. Navy 4-0 now. Memphis 2-0, ranked. South Florida ranked at 2-0, 5-1 overall. Memphis 6-0 overall. So's Navy. Those are the three teams in the driver's seat. More so Memphis and Florida, South Florida. Navy could shock the world by going and beating Notre Dame, and they would make a huge move up that poll and towards that group of 5 playoff spot. Right now it's Memphis and South Florida's. Probably South Florida's to lose. First of all, you got to win this conference to get in. You're not getting in any other way. And then you got to be ranked ahead of the UNLVs of the world. To me, outside of the 4 teams, I'll include Tulane still. They're still undefeated in conference. I'm going to include them, South Florida, Memphis, Navy, and UNLV are the teams with a shot. The ACC, Georgia's at 3-0. Georgia Tech is at 3-0. Virginia 3-0. Duke 3-0. We got 5 undefeated teams. Miami still only played 1 league game before this week. They get Louisville coming to Miami. This feels like Miami and whoever finishes second. And there feels like 4 or 5 teams could do that. Big 12, BYU and Texas Tech have kind of stood out from everybody else, but don't sleep on Cincinnati, who's been playing really good football. That win Nebraska had over them in their opening game looks better and better. Utah could put a change in momentum, if you will. There's that word again, by beating BYU in the Holy War this week. And don't count out Arizona State, who they got this week. But I put them on my list here. They get Texas Tech. They can get themselves back in with an upset. The Big Ten, Indiana 3-0, Ohio State 3-0. It feels like they're on a collision course. But we can't count on USC, who's got 1 loss in conference. Oregon, of course, with 1 loss. Michigan still only with 1 loss. Nebraska, who I had in that championship game, plus 3,000 to win the Big Ten. I'll take that $3,000. Conference USA, Kennesaw State, Jacksonville State, both 2-0. Not going to have any playoff ramifications here. Notre Dame and UConn, the only 2 independents, both 4-2, but very different teams. Notre Dame wins, they're in. They're 13 now. They've lost to the number 2 and the number 4 team in the country. If they run the table, they are never going to get left out of this playoff. I don't care what happens. Mid-American, Western Michigan leads at 3-0. Buffalo and Miami both at 2-0. Again, no playoff ramifications. The Mountain West, Vegas 2-0, 6-0 all overall. Playing really close games, but winning under Dan Mullen. UNLV not ranked, not close to being ranked yet. They've got a point. They've got some votes towards the top 25. Long way to go. They need, I think, the American to kind of cannibalize itself a little bit to be able to move up far enough, in my mind. The Pac-12, both teams are 0-0. Southwest Conference, Ole Miss feels like the weakest link in the top 10. I think they lose to Georgia at Georgia this week. Texas A&M might be the best team in the conference, 3-0 also. Bama, 3-0. Big game against Tennessee at home this week. You can't count out Georgia. You can't count out LSU. You can't count out Tennessee. Don't count out Texas just yet. And the Sun Belt, the only 2 conference left playing 2 divisions, James and Madison, had some playoff aspirations in the beginning of the year. I don't think they're going to have any way to make this up with all the teams in front of them. But I do think they'll win this conference, probably playing the championship game against Troy or Southern Miss. And some of the big, let me get to some of your comments here. SC might I agree, Danny. We talked about a little bit about this earlier. I think Michael brought up the fact that, as I've talked about, USC's defense much, much better. They will rush the passer. CJ Carr will feel some pressure, but CJ Carr's played pretty well and played against one of the best pass rushes in the country in Miami and played a really good game. It was certainly a really good second half. I just think Notre Dame wins. I don't think they need style points this week. They just need a victory in this game. Speaking of quitters, is Florida State done after shocking Alabama? Florida State's absolutely done. They've got 3 losses. They have, how many losses do they have in conference? Just 1? No, they're 0-3 in the ACC. They can't even get to the conference championship game with 3 losses. They're done. They just aren't that good yet. I mean, this still is a far cry from, 2-10 last year. But they're 3-3 overall. Lost 3 in a row now. 1 to a really good Miami team. 1 to a better than we thought Virginia team. But this loss to Pittsburgh last week really hurts them, I think. Oh, thank you, Michael. As always, sure we'll see another article to put up here later this week. What are the matchups? Let's look at some of the important matchups this week. We said we've got Louisville going to Miami. Miami shouldn't lose. Really, they should hit the conference championship game undefeated. They should. They'll be favored in every game. This is a game they got to be careful of. Louisville with some talent. I'd be careful if I was Miami here. I don't expect them to lose this game. Nebraska at Minnesota. These are both Friday games, by the way, not Saturday. Nebraska at Minnesota. Nebraska's got some momentum, got to 25th in the country now. Minnesota's sneaky good, especially at home. Well coached, PJ Flesch. I like their coach a lot. This is a game to keep an eye on. Nebraska's slowly getting better. Still need a signature win. Matt Rule, James Franklin. Vanderbilt gets LSU this week, favored. I doubt LSU's ever played Vanderbilt and not been favored. The Vanderbilt's favored at home. They're coming off that loss 2 weeks ago to Alabama. Georgia Tech goes to Duke in a big ACC game, both undefeated in conference. Ole Miss goes to Georgia. Ole Miss, I like Georgia in this game. Rick, I know you haven't commented a lot on this. I haven't been big on Georgia. Georgia hangs in there. They're 9th in the country. They find ways to win games. I'm still not confident in the quarterback. I'm not confident that this defensive and offensive lines are as good or as deep as they've been, and they can't be. There's just not going to be teams that are 3 and 4 deep anymore. They just haven't felt, like your grandfather's Georgia team. Well, not your grandfather's Georgia, but you know what I mean. But that said, I'm not sold on Ole Miss going in there and winning this game. Ole Miss feels like the weak link in the Big Ten. I'll take Georgia. Texas Tech goes to Arizona State. If Levitt's back, I like Arizona State a little bit in this game, but I don't think that he is. Texas Tech has played well. Money well spent. Flo pointed out to me that I should talk about other teams spending money, and yes, they're not the only team spending a boatload of freaking money. So, but they've spent their money well. That's kind of my point. Tennessee goes to Alabama in a huge clash. Alabama undefeated. Tennessee with 1 loss in the SEC. Notre Dame SC. This is a great. You guys can tell me this card is great this week. Even outside the top 25, there's a couple of good matchups that I like. USC, Notre Dame being one of them. Who knows if they play anymore after the season? It would be a shame if they don't. USC, as Danny pointed out, Michael pointed out, they do have a chance to win this game. They're much better defensively than they've been at any time during Lincoln Riley's tenure there. They're better than Oklahoma was defensively at the end of his tenure there. And they're getting good quarterback play, which you would expect. Notre Dame, needs to run the table. They're not getting in with 3 losses. 2 losses, they're about guaranteed right now to get in. Utah and BYU, as I said, in the Holy War. Ohio State's going to go to Wisconsin and just beat the bejesus out of Wisconsin at Camp Randall. Luke Fickell might be next. It could be a race between Fickell and Billy Napier. Who's going to lose first? It's funny. 3 years ago, Luke Fickell, we would have been talking about potentially being the next head coach of Penn State. And look where he's fallen. Interesting article, too, or not an article, but a question in Stu Mandel in the Athletics question column about coaches and pay, and our team's going to put out big contracts. He thinks that at some point, and it's going to take one school to say, I'm all right losing our top guy, and give these guys bonuses, basically incentive bonuses, instead of guaranteeing, $100 million to these guys. You're going to get a base of, X, and then you get, 10 million for making the playoff, or 25 million for winning the national championship. And the buyouts are not going to be 75 to Jimbo and 48 to James Franklin. It's going to be hard. Somebody's got to break the ice, and it's going to be hard because you're going to lose candidates most likely when you make this happen. The group of 5 big games, UNLV plays Boise State, as I said. Memphis plays UAB, and Florida Atlantic will go to South Florida. I like UNLV, Memphis, and South Florida continue to win this week. Outside the top 25, Penn State going to Iowa. I do think Iowa and that defense and special teams of Kirk Friends, despite the lack of offense, I think will be enough to keep Penn State reeling. I think North Carolina and Bill Belichick get beat again on the road. Got to travel across the country to Cal. Washington and Michigan, very interesting matchup outside of the top 25. Washington's very quietly playing some really good football, and Michigan's still a work in progress. This is an interesting game, 6.5-point spread. I'm not really sure. I'm going to say with the points, I'll take Washington and a possible upset on the road. Oklahoma will go to SC. I think they'll lose their second game in a row. SC is one of those teams that can bite up and beat you, and not bad at home, and still got one of the best quarterbacks in the country, even though he's not playing anywhere near capability. I think it's hilarious how we get all over Arch Manning, who had 90 career passes before this season, and he hasn't played up to our ridiculous hyped up expectations. But we knock him with a lack of experience. But 3 quarterbacks with all kinds of experience, especially Alar and Klubnik and Lenore Sellers, get a pass. I get confused sometimes. Clemson, I can't read who they're playing here. Damn it. Who are they playing? SMU plays Clemson. Mississippi State, Florida. Very interesting game. Much improved Mississippi State team. Billy Napier hanging by a thread. And as I mentioned, the military academies, Army will get Tulane, and Wyoming goes to Air Force. Navy has a bye. What do we got here? Not much. Got one more comment here. You're right about Georgia this year. They start every game poorly, then fight their way back. Bad formula that will bite them in the ass. I agree 100%. It already has once, right? Could be this week against Mississippi. Mississippi's a good team. Well coached. I know you guys hate Lane. John DeLon hated him. I know that. John DeLon, rather. And we hope John's okay. I say that a lot. Haven't seen him at all this season. We hope he's okay. Before the season, and there's certainly been better contenders than the one I picked. Of the top 10 teams, I said Georgia was the most likely to fall out. Well, Clemson dropped out of the top 25. Texas did. They fought their way back in now. Penn State has in just 3 weeks. Hard to believe. 3 weeks ago, Penn State was number 2 in the country. Just feels off, right? We got a couple minutes left. What other? And again, but this team is also well coached and could battle their way to the SEC championship game, battle their way into the playoff. I don't think they're going to contend for a championship, but who knows? It has been one screwy year. And there are times I don't know if any of the teams I think are good. I think Ohio State's really good. I think Indiana's really good. I think Miami's really good. I don't know about anybody else. I think A&M is really good, but I just don't know. I really thought Oregon was really good. I don't know. That Penn State win doesn't look as good anymore. It's really weird. Hang on, I got a text here. Yeah, I check that out later. What else? Another lawsuit, NIL lawsuit with a high school receiver looking to profit from NIL. USC and it's all about money. I hate to talk about this stuff during the season, so I'm not going to dive into it big. We know there's this private equity capital supposedly coming into the Big Ten. The money was just like outrageous, but now Michigan and USC are kind of questioning this deal, and I think the way it might be shared, we'll see how that turns out. The AD said Franklin's big game record did play a role in his firing. Of course it did. What? They didn't fire him just because he lost 3 games in a row. It's funny, Matt Rule, and you guys played his speech the other day, but he didn't necessarily shoot down any rumors about Penn State. At least not the way I read it. Big Ten fined USC. They listed a running back out last week, ended up playing in the game. Interesting. Kirby Smart's timeout. We got timeout gate. Am I the only guy that saw Kirby Smart running down the sideline going like this? Maybe I'm wrong. That number 3 ranking, by the way, that Indiana has is their highest ranking ever. Seattle with a 2-run home run to take the lead on Tampa Bay tonight. How's that pitching doing, Danny? By the way, we're going to talk about this on the Friday MLB update, Danny, but I'll tell you right now, I hope all of Major League Baseball, I'm not denigrating your pitching staff. Your pitching staff is great. I don't think saying Seattle's, I feel, is better, deeper, is really a knock on your great pitchers. And I assume Ohtani's pitching tomorrow night, but tomorrow night, right? I hope all of baseball is watching Dave Roberts leave his starting pitchers in. Matt Snell, who's only sniffed the 8th inning about twice in his career, pitches 8 unbelievable innings in game 1, and Yamamoto gets a complete game victory yesterday. So I'll give you some credit there. Seattle up 2-0. They may sweep this series. We'll talk more about that on Friday with the MLB update, 3:00 Friday. Still looking for a bet. I'm still considering a new home and time for this. Not new home, but when I say new home, I mean a day and time for this show. It may stay right here, except while I'm on vacation. It'll be kind of a ad hoc. And I'm still considering a new time and day. I like the day, actually, for the MLB update on Friday. I just don't want to do it, say, right away following Jack and Keith's weekend playbook. And then, you know, a bunch of the guys that follow the show can't get there. That's all. So trying to look up everybody. Glasnow's Thursday, right? What are they saving Ohtani for next opening day or what? Interesting. Anyway, what else we got? That's it. We're going to wrap it up, guys. Thanks. It's been a great show. These hour and a half flies by. 2 hours flies by on Sunday. You guys make my job so easy. I love coming in here. I love spending time with all you guys. Make my life easy. This isn't a job. This is a labor of love. I'm not making any money here. We're having fun. I measure my success in fun. Ohtani Friday. Good call. Thank you, Danny. Getting our Dodger update here on the college football huddle. Lots of great football this weekend, guys. I'm calling this right now my favorite card of the year so far. I think there's a lot of great games. Wall to wall. I might have to get an extra TV going or something. We'll see you on Friday morning with Jack, with Jack and Keith's weekend playbook, and I'll see you at 3 p.m. with the MLB update, and of course the Sunday stream of consciousness. Sunday of all days. So thank you, Danny. Have a great night, guys. Bye-bye.